Okay, the Ways and Means meeting will come to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Here.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Here.
Alderman Muhammad. Chairman Conway. 5 present. You have a quorum.
Okay, we're going to do Board Bill 43 first, and then we're going to hear from Kim. Alderwoman Davis, you're recognized on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman and members of the committee, Board Bill number 43 we're requesting an ordinance to approve a petition for a community improvement district. It's establishing an expanded Forsyth Associates Community Improvement District. This particular piece of property was first developed probably about almost 14 years ago, and lost its first ownership and management, and then was bought by this entity. This particular entity has invested a little over $3 million in the property, has gotten improved security and a number of other things, which has made it even better. For those of you who'd like to know a little bit more about the property, it is the property, Morgan Lennon building, where Pappy's Restaurant is located, Southern Restaurant is located. We're about to have a new ice brewery there. It's going to be brewing a different type of beer. And it's rather exciting. So we're just asking to have the approval for their set.
Does anyone have questions? If there's no questions.
I just have
okay,
one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So would this be supported by a property tax and a sales tax also?
No, ma'am, just the sales tax.
Just a sales tax,
Yes.
no property tax?
Mhm.
Okay. And so what is the sales tax going to be?
1%.
Yeah, the normal, what is it, 1%?
1%.
1%.
1%, not a half percent?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'll bring the sales tax in that area up to 10? I guess?
Well, for that
10%?
particular SID, should take it to what, 10 and a half? It should be 10 and a half,
Yeah, I don't know what the current.
yeah. Because that's what I'm paying everybody else's establishments there. Everybody's got a SID.
Yep.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Actually, there's one that I'm paying 12 cents on a dollar. Yeah.
Okay. Just,
Seeing no other questions, I'll motion that we pass Board Bill 43 out.
Second.
Do pass second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Aye.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
aye.
Alderwoman Murphy.
Aye.
Alderwoman Boyd.
Aye.
Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Chairman Conway. 6 aye votes do pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kim, you're up in the hot
You're
seat.
Oh.
Now, I'm gonna go a little out of order, just so you guys know on questions, because two of the guys have to leave for streets. But go ahead, Kim. And if you have anybody you want, Rachel, you wanna sit up there with Kim? Absolutely. So, who has to go to streets? You two. So, we'll start. Hold on, which one got seniority? Okay. No, give me a break, I'm getting old. So, we're gonna go a little out of order. Go ahead, if you have questions. This is about, well, first off, Kim, if you could explain what your needs are in this prop, I don't even know what the prop is, but it's a half-cent sales tax for the police, the fire, and your office.
Right.
And so it was just, we invited you over to speak on it, what your needs are, what you would like to see in that.
First of all, I want to thank the vice chairman and each and every one of you for allowing me to speak on this interesting proposition. It is imperative that you and the citizens of the St. Louis understand the role of the Circuit Attorney's Office has in public safety and long-term crime prevention. I am the only elected official in the city of St. Louis that focuses on reducing crime. The mayor, the board of aldermen, each of you have made it clear that public safety is their #1 priority. As well, all of you know the economic viability, the city is directly tied to the city's brand as the most dangerous city in America. I understand that while there are competing needs across the city, budget allocations, budget allocations are a direct reflection of what the city prioritizes. To simply say what we do means more than what we say. Too many young people are dying. Too many families are shattered. Too many people live in fear. The status quo is not working. Talking about it isn't enough. Solutions need proper funding. With a new mayor, police, and circuit attorney, it is time we all put our heads together and develop a long-term strategy to address violent crime. A comprehensive strategy must include the role the prosecutors have in the criminal justice system. Not once since I've been elected have I been invited to sit at the table or been asked my true opinion on how to reduce crime and turn this city into a place that we can all be proud of. So I'm here today to tell you, while I know it is not going to be easy, I ran on a platform of reducing violent crime with innovative, proven crime strategies that can also reduce financial costs that plague our city. I'm committed to implementing the best practices in prosecution and improving office efficiencies that can increase our capacities. At this time, with the funding that has been allocated to the circuit attorney's office this year, our worry about the core constitutional functions are going to be hampered. We have many of the same issues that the police have. Too much work managed by too far and few people. Young, eager prosecutors, starting salaries in our office are lower than the starting salary of police officers, and they have 6-figure school loan debt. And they don't have shift work or the ability to generate lucrative overtime. When they return home from an overnight homicide scene at 5 a.m. in the morning, they have to be back in court for a hearing at 9 a.m. Attracting and retaining attorneys have always been a problem, even before I took this position. But in this current environment, we have caseloads that are rising and resources are dwindling. The pressure is just too much. What we need to do long-term, that's what you guys are asking me. We need more people and resources dedicated in 4 major areas. The first, we cannot reduce violent crime until we can better protect the safety of witnesses and victims. We need resources to protect people, to build trust and confidence in the criminal justice system with the communities that can help us hold offenders accountable. We are seeing, too, more violent crime as a portion of our docket. We need more experienced prosecutors to manage the high-level cases that are being brought to our office. We have more than 1,000 police officers that bring cases to only 60 attorneys. Even fully staffed, we simply do not have the manpower to properly address the rise in violent crime that we've seen over the past 3 years. We need more Attorney 2 positions and 3 positions. And we need the financial resources to retain quality prosecutors. 3, we need proper resources to implement diversion programs and alternative strategies designed to keep people out the criminal justice system and reduce the number of repeat offenders. We must address young, low-level offenders before they become the violent criminals that we hear and see today. There are proven strategies that are working in other cities across this country, and they can work in our city too. And we need 4 prosecutor-led investigations that strengthen our cases and meet the needs and demands from our citizens to conduct independent investigations. Now, my staff and I are putting together a long-term strategy to reduce violent crime and increasing public safety. We will be delighted to come back later and to address that further with you, but anyone who's interested in partnering with me in my office to do these things, we're open. And that's pretty much what I need.
What I'm gonna do, just because they have to go to another meeting, so Alderman Murphy, if you have questions.
Just one. I said, we set aside some money for your office for that half-cent sales tax. This is probably a loaded question. Are you semi-happy with the amount that we set aside?
I'm happy with any amount.
I'm sure you
So
are.
I'm not gonna say I'm not happy. I'm happy with any amount of added resources to my budget. So
Okay.
I'm happy with any amount.
And so in lieu of that tax failing, then we're back to square one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you're kind of happy with the amount we set aside?
I'm happy with any amount.
Thank
Beggars
you.
can't be choosers, but I know that I'm happy with any amount we come up with.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Alderman Boyd, yes, you know.
The only question that I had, Kim, was, and I know that you are really in a fight with a rubber knife, and so my question to you is, do you have a backup plan if this 1/2 cents doesn't come through for you?
Well, I think that we, like we talked about before, and I spoke to many of you, aldermen, one-on-one and together. I mean, our city is in a critical time. We have to focus on priorities. And our priorities, were reflected in our budget, it needs to reflect so in the circuit attorney's office. And so regardless of whether this initiative passed or not, we need to sit down and to this table, if we all say public safety is number one, then the budget should reflect so.
Right.
You know, it's coming to a critical point when we talk about the landscape in terms of the federal level, in terms of how the circuit attorney's office was able to, even with dwindling cuts, they could piecemeal portions of money to support services, but right now those resources are gone. So we're stuck with asking the city to look at how they can fund us more appropriately. And I'm gonna ask each year that we do that because public safety is number one.
Right.
So, you know, this is right now I'm still evaluating this bill, but in lieu of that, we need our budget to reflect supporting the circuit attorney's office. And because when you give our offices $1, we can save many dollars. So it's like to me, it's a 5 to 1 or more than that ratio of return to the city.
Okay.
Because if, regardless of what you believe, more prosecutors move cases, not public defenders, not anyone else. It's the prosecutors and the courts that move cases.
If I could give some numbers to follow up on what the circuit attorney said. In 2015, 2016, the circuit attorney, in partnership with many people in the city, had a large portion of the JAG grant. That funded 3 attorneys, 2 investigators.
What is the JAG
JAG
grant?
It's a federal funding pass-through money. Some people, it was a combination of the burn funds. It funds some police overtime. It funds various parts of the
What
city.
does that acronym stand for?
Justice Assistance Grant.
Okay.
Okay. And that amount of money reflected 3 attorney spots, 2 investigator spots, and 1.5 support staff spots. That funding is dwindled so that going into fiscal year 18, we have 1 attorney spot. So when the circuit attorney is talking about the shrinking funds, I mean, we can give real data on how the circuit attorney in the past was able to piecemeal successfully using grants and using efforts from people around the city with grant funds from the feds, things that really are core constitutional functions. That piecemeal and patchwork approach no longer works because the federal money's dried up.
So this is my comment. I support you 100% because it's critical in our communities. And it used to be that they would say, it was in North St. Louis, but now it's a citywide issue. And so I'm strongly believing that we all need to come to the table and I'm always a person that I always like to connect dots. So I always like to look at in case that doesn't go through, we need to have a plan with you to stand beside you to say, this is what we need to do. And so whatever you need, let me know. I don't have a problem with it. But I'm real clear that office needs those services 100%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you need to cross, Alderwoman Davis?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we go. Now we'll go back in order again, but Alderwoman
Okay.
Davis.
I'm extremely afraid in my city right now. I never thought I would have to say that. And it became very clear to me on the 4th of July when I was directing my driving pattern from North County back to my home. because I can't drive down certain streets because I'm afraid. And you know what? I was right, because they had blocked off some streets, and one street I was trying to avoid, I had to drive down. And sure enough, here come bullets. And you know, my car has already been hit with bullets driving down the street. So I'm afraid. I'm afraid for the young people. I look at them every day. I look at kids that live around me, and I don't know if I'm gonna see them come home that day. And that's sad. That's sad. We should not even be discussing this. We should not have let this get this far. So I need to say to you, and I need to say to this entire legislative and executive body, that we need to stop getting in the way of the experts who know what to do. Let them make the decisions, and we support them. We don't know how to run the police department. We need to let the police department tell us what they need and support them. We don't know how to prosecute cases or run that prosecuting attorney's office. We need to support you. And that just goes on and on. I want to say to you that you have Rachel sitting next to you right now. She knows what we have to do. We've been down that road before together in Jeff Vanderloop and that area over there when the police didn't even want to come. We need the investigators. We need the funds to assign specific investigators to targeted neighborhoods that have the distress problems. They can't be running all over. They got to be there, concentrate, know that neighborhood, know the people, and get the job done. That's important. That's so important. We also have to have a way for us to say to our congressmen and our senators, you can find some money if you want to. And that's a message that we need to send together. We need to send it to them because they can find some money. And we're not talking about billions of dollars. So if we could just find $1 million, that would help tremendously. My last thing very quickly is that I have committed myself to helping start neighborhood accountability boards again. I've talked with the Urban League. They're willing to assist us. My neighborhood organizations, all of us are interested. I believe our colleagues will come, in those distressed neighborhoods because we want to save the young people and we want to help their families too. So I think that that's something we can do to help you as well. Knowing and listening is one thing, but the action behind that. And that's what we have to do now. We passed a budget that didn't have any action to it. It's now left up to the Ways and Means and the executive branch of this municipality to sit down right now, not 2 years from now, but right now, and find a minimum of $400,000 to get into your budget right now. And I believe we can do it. If you let me have that budget for about 30 minutes, it's done. So I believe we can do it. And just get this ball rolling in the right direction. We don't have the luxury of waiting and continuing to beg. We got people dying every single day. We got families being disrupted by people being maimed. We've got people who refuse to come to my town. Do you know that I am begging people for this National Urban League Convention to come here? Begging them, but they look at the news. They are afraid to come to our town. This is wrong. It's wrong on every level. So we have got to do something now, not later. And I wanted to clarify, do you need 4 more attorneys or was it more than that?
We need more than that.
Okay, let's talk the real numbers. What's the real number?
I think what we had asked for just to kind of stopgap was an additional 6 people.
Okay.
However, that does not include any of the new work that the circuit attorneys, that's just.
Oh, it's monumental, I know that.
I mean,
I know
and the caseloads, if you mind if I tell them about Don? Don Tyson was recognized by this board for having tried over 200 felony cases. He's been with the city for over 30 years, dedicated long-term prosecutor. He called up to the front office, having gone to all the homicide and shooting scenes this week, having grand jury court dates, and said, "Uncle, he's one of the toughest people we know. And we have to be able to give people like Don a break. They've earned it."
Just tell, like Rachel in 1 week went to over 6 scenes. When you go to 6 scenes, we don't have shift work. So while while we're advocating, people think we're just advocating for salaries. We are, as
Right.
prosecutors, are called to do different things because that's what the community and that's what we, as prosecutors, are supposed to do. But we're not police. We don't do shift work like police. We don't have a 5 to 5 in the morning shift. We can't work 24 hours, and that's
Right.
what we're doing right now because in order to strengthen our cases, it's a good program. We go and respond to the homicide scenes so we can better make sure we understand as trial attorneys, make sure we understand what's going on, and then we make sure we can issue that case faster because that's a person who's murdered. That is serious, and so we want to make sure we're there. But what that does is there's constant calls, and that one attorney works for a week around the clock. The court does not stop. So they have to get up the next morning and be in court. How do you think that attorney who has to review these applications, they have to deal with witnesses and victims, they have to go to court, they're being screamed at all the time, and then we're saying more. And the sad thing about it is, I can't even give them overtime. So people like Rachel, who've been here 20-something years, the experienced attorneys, which people think that we want to keep these people because they've been in the trenches, they know what to do to help educate these younger attorneys to bring them up to where they're at, but we can't even give them money. I can't even give them a meal based off of what my budget is. And that's why, and I want to say that President Lewis Reed and Alderman Muhammad has a supplemented budget that is going to address some of the needs for this right now. So if you guys could support that, I appreciate that because that's addressing some of the witness and victim issues. That's addressing some of the funding issues of alternative programs that we need to support some of the things that we're doing. So he's trying to restore, I think, over $300,000 back to my budget. That's so needed.
Okay. Well, I can definitely support that. And it's just, we are just in a pitiful situation. I talked to somebody yesterday because there was a project somebody called me about and they were worried about whether or not their building was going to get eminent domain and it's for a new hotel. And, we got all this brick and mortar stuff going on in our town and it's wonderful. But like I told them yesterday, I'm a little troubled today. I couldn't talk to them. I said, I'm a little troubled. I can't talk about another hotel. And aside from that, I think we've done enough hotels for the time being. I think we just did 4 or 5 of them for this past year. That's enough. Let's figure out if they can even fill up. But I got to figure this out somehow, some way. Even though I love this city, but I'm afraid of this city. My children want me to leave. If they had their way, they'd pack me up tomorrow. I would be out of this town. But I don't want to leave. I want to try to make it better.
We can make it better, and we have the tools that, like I said, I speak about the prosecutor's office being at the table. We have many tools that most people don't even know we have.
I know you
Because,
do.
I
know you do.
I tell
I've used
people-
most of them. I know you do.
Most people only hear law enforcement. Law
Yeah.
enforcement can only arrest you for 24 hours. It's the
true.
prosecutor
That's
who
true.
deals with the case from years to come.
Yeah.
And so we need to be at the table in terms of our valuability, in terms of reducing serious and violent crime and making our city safer. And I want to address that issue, and I thank you for supporting me, and hopefully we can put this money in the budget, but it's so needed because people like Rachel, it's a few people who have over 20 years experience, and they're staying because they're committed, but it's people who are younger who they cannot stay.
But if you lose all your experience, now you're even in more trouble.
Right.
That's another thing we have to think about too. Some people think it's okay, but it's not. You need institutional memory. You need that experience that knows how to get the job done and do it well. Because when you go in the courtroom, you want to win. You don't want somebody who came in and because they fell asleep or didn't have time or whatever, they're going to lose a case. We don't need that. We don't need some of those fools back on the street. So we have got to make sure we keep the experience there. That's critical too. My very last thing here, when you were talking about your delivery system, and one of the things that I didn't hear in that, and I had a lady call me about it, how can we make it better for you for people to just simply know processes? We need something. There's nothing out there that promotes how to move information forward. You know what I'm saying? We need something.
Well, actually, I'm bringing in some individuals who are from out out of town who's gonna look at the process of the office and further give a report of best practices and how to make our office more efficient. So we're really working to have a report so we can present to you guys to show how if we made our office more efficient, then we can speed things up and save the city money. So we're working, and they're coming in about the next couple months.
Okay, well, that sounds like that's going in the right direction. Yeah, I was concerned about that as well. Honestly, that's my last question and concern, but at the end of the day, this is not anything that requires 5 or 6 more meetings. Doesn't require another white paper written. It doesn't require another committee installed to understand or discuss it or make recommendations. We just need to act.
Well,
Thank you.
and just so you know, and that's what we're trying to find out, it really will require another Ways and Means meeting tomorrow.
Oh, I mean,
night.
the legislative body.
I'm talking about to get the bill through the
Yeah.
reappropriation of funds. In order to do that before we go on break, it would actually require that, you know, we have a meeting in the morning, we're checking. And I apologize. Alderwoman Howard, you're on.
You have 60 attorneys. What would be full complement of attorneys for you,
Well,
ideally?
I'm gonna ask Rachel, because I think, I mean, in the best case scenario, I would think if we had 80 total attorneys, because what's going on is we have a inverted kind of pyramid. Back when I was a prosecutor in 2000, we had more of the drug cases and different things were nonviolent cases, so we can hire a lower level attorney to fill up a lot of the bulk of the docket. Right now,
Misdemeanors and
misdemeanors,
less serious crimes.
less serious property crimes, but now we have a huge amount of violent crime. And so what we're needing is a more experienced attorney. So I can't attract a person who's been in the criminal justice system, who's practiced, tried cases, murder cases, with $50,000. They need more.
That is starting pay?
No, starting pay is $40,000, but in a higher level, attorney two, and I'm gonna get the numbers from Rachel because she
Right.
knows I don't wanna mess them up.
Yes.
But attorney two starting salary is what it's about.
An attorney two starts at 63.
So to attract
And
that,
attorney 3?
An attorney three starts at 72.
How many of those do you have?
At the present time, we have authorized, I'm pulling it up.
If you-
Yeah, we only have 8 authorized right now. And that's
Are
part
you
of,
able to fill those?
they're filled.
they're filled right now. One of the challenges with the budget that was passed, which really was done without input from us, was they, as a way to not cut bodies, they shifted our attorneys down. And I understand why the budget director did it. I mean, it's always a tough budget year, but this was a tough budget year. But he shifted the amount of funding from attorney twos down to attorney ones. So it cut our bench, right? So saying you didn't cut our bodies, but you cut our ability to groom people, those attorney twos, yeah, those are the people who second seat me on the murders. They're our homicide prosecutor of next year. And so by doing that shift, but not saying they cut our people, they really, it's a lack of recognition of what's going on in the city. Because the circuit attorney explained, it used to be, murders, robberies, burglaries. In about 2014, we saw as an organization that pyramid flip. And so Jennifer was able to recruit some people laterally because she had more room in her TO and she had those grant spots, because that gave us flexibility to give a little more money. Those grant spots are gone, so the bodies are gone, which means everybody's workload has gone up. And it's gone up in the most dangerous areas. So this is not new news. When Jane and I testified last year in front of Ways and Means, we warned people that these grants were getting lost. We were told we'd be worked with. And so that's why this special appropriation is so important, because we really did lose bodies that may not be reflected on 1010.
How much are you asking for? I don't have the bill in front of me.
Bill number 94, it's $340,000. And we're posting it now, so there will be a 9:30 meeting tomorrow.
340,000?
390,000.
Oh, okay, I know that's.
Out of the half-cent sales tax?
Added use
No.
tax.
Out of the use
2.3
tax,
million.
that's-
The use tax, okay, so this money is
This money
already
to be here
It's,
soon.
it's
right
there.
done, okay.
So it's just
It's not
appropriate.
there yet, but it will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in order for us to not
How
have to
many
have
people
special
will that
meetings.
allow you to hire? About,
It depends on how we chop it up.
Yes, I mean.
depends on which levels.
Right.
Because the big thing with the bill was to support victim services, which we really need a program, because what happens is with a lot of our cases, under our grants that we have through the state of Missouri, if we do not have an open case, we can't support that victim, we can't support those witnesses. So when the case is going on and we're trying to, get more information, get more evidence, those people sit out there and they're afraid. So technically, under the law, I can't do anything with them. So what we do now is we kind of piecemeal services together out of our own budget to say, look, you guys need support, let's move you if you need, because a lot of times people are, around
Afraid to
each
come out of
other.
their house,
And
yeah.
so, if to keep them, we have to do something. So that's one of the portion of the money. Also, some of the things to save the city money, we're looking to invest in diversions. I know the big thing is moving dockets faster. So if we can utilize our resources more efficiently by taking nonviolent, low-level offenders, divert them in the community, we can focus our resources on the serious and violent cases that we need to. So we're looking at funding some of those programs. And then the next part is to address how we utilize maybe one attorney position or two, depending on how we utilize that money. But
Now,
those are the.
this, I get it. I understand, I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you,
I
but I
understand.
want to move along. No, I understand, the juvenile court system is different from you.
Yes.
I believe thoroughly that this is where some of the root causes of what the crime we're seeing. It's
Yeah.
sort of a graduation, they start off at 10 years old or so, or sometimes even younger, and they graduate up. Is there any move to work with them and to address those children early on? It appears to me that, the population at the juvenile detention center is down, but crime is up. What are we doing to address these children that are doing, they're performing adult crimes? And I know that's out of your purview, but there seems to be some way that we should be able to partner with them to address those issues, with the schools, with the juvenile detention system and the parents, to do parenting, because I really thoroughly believe, I think research would prove that, kids don't turn 21 and decide to be criminals.
Yes.
And kids don't turn 18 and decide to be criminals. If you look back in many of the cases, I'm sure that this has been a problem since they were young, whatever that youngness would be. So are we trying to work with them to diversion? I don't really see that happening. I see kids being arrested and I see them back out and, they're emboldened almost.
Well, that's a very good question.
I know that's out of your purview, but is there any efforts to combine those resources so that they don't get to you?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's something that I've struggled with as the circuit attorney, because like you said, that's a direct feeder to the adult system, and so we're looking at ways to partner, because that is run by the courts. And we're looking
it's run
to,
by the state, basically,
and
yes.
we're looking to partner in ways so we, as a circuit attorney, can get to kids earlier, even before 12, because 12 and 13 now are the shooters.
Oh, yeah.
And so we wanted to work with the community in terms of when we do this outreach, and one of the positions was a community engagement specialist that I asked for in the budget. And that person was really to leverage money for grants so we can do the things you're talking about, go out to the community, support families, and identify those high-risk need individuals, where those are going to be the people, the kids that are going to go into the adult system, the juvenile
Criminals of the
system,
future.
and try to make sure we can support them with resources before they take that next big act, and that can prevent us from having that next shooting, that next robbery, that next stealing or whatever. So we are looking to continue to try to fund that position, to get funds to do the things you're talking
Can
about.
I ask you, and I don't know if we have any leverage over that because it is a state entity, if there's anything we can do as a legislative body to entice them to.
You control their budget.
Mhm.
It's funded by the city of St. Louis. You fund it. it's through juvenile courts.
Mhm.
So,
But, I mean, the state is partnered with it also, but
yeah, there's state, but it's like
But
our
it's- but
office,
the-
we're a
yeah.
state function,
But
that
it's us.
you control their budget. And so that's where Alderman Davis's
Mm-hmm.
idea on neighborhood accountability boards is a really good tool that's low dollar. But if there were more resources at the juvenile court level to help support the staff, to support those, they work with those kids that are ex-booked. And that's where the police call juvenile court and say, hey, are you gonna hold him? And juvenile court says yes or no. They will often say no, and so the police department just fills out that form and sends it in. But the accountability boards can then work with those ex-booked offenders. One of the
And their
issues.
families.
And their families. And so one of the issues for at the juvenile court level is that funding. And because we've done so much with the neighborhood groups, in the past, we've been at the table when different communities have put together those strategic plans and talked about the juvenile. And one of the plans is that neighborhood accountability board, where you work with those kids that have been let go and their families through a neighborhood accountability board.
our NOM has not approached that yet.
Yeah,
So,
and so
I think that's.
it's a great tool. Yeah, but to add that to NOM, the neighborhoods that can do that, and some are only doing that accountability boards. Some have decided to put their resources there.
So for
It's-
example, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
jump in, just to give you an example. I always talk about this young man who was in Sumner High School that stole a cell phone. He was 18 years old. So technically, he is considered an adult, and he was in the system for a felony. What I did, and what we kind of looked at, we brought his family, we brought a member from the community to support him, to say, look, you need to do something different. And so he basically said it was a dare that he took the cell phone. He was basically pressured by other kids, oh, take their cell phone. Gave the cell phone back, but we charged him with a felony. So what we kind of, in looking at the family structure as well as the community healing, I told the young man, I'm gonna do something different for you. I'm gonna make you do 100 hours of community service in your community. And the community has to support whatever community service they agree on. And you have to ask them. And that was one stipulation. Another stipulation was cognitive behavior therapy training, because this 17 to 25 years old, scientific data says their brain development. They make these rash decisions, and they don't understand the decisions they're making can affect them for the rest of their life. So he had to do so many hours in that. He also had to write a letter to the victim, and if the victim wanted to confront him, not in a threatening way, but to tell her side or his or her side of what that did to her or him, and he had to listen and tell her, how that made him feel and how he's moved past this or he wants to be more productive. When I did that, the young man completed those things in 3 weeks. He was about 3 weeks from graduating from Sumner High School.
It may not have had.
He may not have. And he basically, you saw the smile on his face, saw him being proud that he completed these things. He told me he was about to go off to college. I think it was Lane University. He got a scholarship to go off to. But those are many examples that we see of individuals that are in the system, that are low risk, nonviolent, that if they were given a second chance, they'll be more productive citizens, and they can be this ambassador for the city that says, yes, if you break the law, we're going to hold you accountable, but at the same time, we're going to use resources appropriately. So putting that young man in the system was not going to help me. It'll help me for the conviction rate.
Well,
I can say I have a
unfortunately,
100%
he had-
conviction rate, but
Yeah.
is that really appropriate?
Fortunately, he had a support system. Also, family support, obviously, if he's going to college, and they knew the risk he would have
Yes.
been in had you proceeded with the letter of the law.
But if
Rather
I
than
never
the
talked to
spirit.
him, I would never know that. I
Exactly.
would never know he was going to college. I would
Process
never know he
paper.
was Sumner. I would never know anything about him. But that's what me as
Other than he was 18 and still.
other than he was
cell phone.
18, and that's under the law, he broke the law, and we can prosecute him. And that's what I'm asking prosecutors to look at cases, not just as charges. These are people and these are lives. And if we can divert nonviolent people that are less likely, they're over 80% less likely to not reoffend or commit a new crime, why are we using all of our resources to everybody the same way as a murder case? That's not appropriate, effective, and we can't
Right.
sustain it.
But by the same token, it's best if we cannot get to the murder case.
No, you're right. You're right.
I mean, so
I think that's all I have at this point, but
So,
I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so we are gonna hear that tomorrow at 9:30. They'll ask to suspend the rules to perfect it tomorrow, otherwise we'd have to have extra meetings. Art would be after we come back from summer break. We're the only ones left, but would you, I would think at least Rachel, you might wanna come over.
Okay.
I don't know if Kim needs to, unless you guys want Kim back over here tomorrow. I don't anticipate the meeting being more than 10 minutes. I hope
So
not.
we're gonna do it before the regular
We're
meeting.
gonna do it because it has to be second read and perfected tomorrow, so that it could be third read and final passed next week. And if we don't do that, then we either have to hold extra meetings in the summer break, which everybody loves, or this would get postponed until mid-September when we're back. So,
We'll get it on the calendar.
it is, that's where Donna went, that we are having a meeting tomorrow at 9:30. Rachel, I would at least, maybe if you come back, it would be nice. Do you guys
Okay.
feel we need Kim back?
Why don't we do 9, just to
We
be.
can't,
can't.
because of the 1 hour, the 24-hour rule.
Oh.
That was right at
I got you.
9:30,
Okay.
that's why,
All right.
so it'll be sharp, 'cause we have a 10 o'clock meeting. I doubt there's gonna be a lot of questions. Rachel, it'd be nice if you come back. Do you guys want Kim back tomorrow?
I've asked all
so.
the questions I need to ask.
Okay,
good.
Kim, God bless, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
I
coming
appreciate
out.
it.
Thank you.
And the meeting's adjourned.